And then let me go ahead and try to start our screen and see if I can figure out how to do that. And unfortunately, I have set up the meeting to have a waiting room for some reason, and I'm having to admit people. So if you see me messing around with the computer screen, that's what I'm trying to do. So I apologize for this is a learning curve. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We have about 24 people on the call now, which is really exciting. Thank you for joining in on I can't think of what day it is, Wednesday night. The homeschooling is starting to blur the days quite a bit for us here in the Swanson Smith household. So yeah, thank you guys. Oh, today was a super important day. It was Census Day, and that was very exciting. I couldn't pick a better day to start having these chats. So yeah, hopefully you guys were able to promote the census or you filled out the questionnaire yourself. And that's basically what our talk is going to be about today. Here we go. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce everyone that's on the call with us. And please, I didn't want this to be like me talking at everyone. I kind of wanted it to be more of a chat. And I see that almost everyone has muted themselves. Thank you for being very polite. Please feel free to unmute yourself though and ask questions and have a discussion, because it's always better to have it that way, in my opinion, because that's more of a learning environment where it's a conversation and not just me talking at everyone. So I'm going to go through the people that are in the coalition that I saw had signed up, and I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves really quick if you don't mind. So I'm Stephanie Swanson. I'm with the League of Women Voters of Texas. I'm in charge of redistricting our advocacy efforts at the state level, and I'm also one of the lead organizers of the Fair Maps Texas Coalition. I know Lydia's on the phone. Lydia, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Hi, I'm Lydia, and Texans Against Gerrymandering is an activist group that is located in Katy, Texas. I'm happy to say that several of our members are online this evening with us. Welcome all. We've been working on this since fall of 2017. So it's good to be with people who have like minds.
The next person I have up on the list is Joaquin Gonzalez from the Texas Civil Rights Project. And I'm sorry that your name is misspelled on the slide. My computer, for some reason, always corrects it back to an S instead of a Z. I apologize. Joaquin, I saw you were on the phone for a second. Are you still there?
I am. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Hey, how are you?
Hey. Not bad. How's it going? Hi, everybody. Joaquin Gonzalez. I'm a staff attorney with the Texas Civil Rights Project.
The next person we have up on the slide is Valerie Street. Valerie, are you able to join us tonight? Are you here? Valerie is with the Texas Progressive Action Network. The next person is Treshawn Pett. I can't pronounce your last name, I apologize. He's with the ACLU. Trey, are you on the phone? Nope. Okay, I know Dave's here. Dave Jones with Clean Elections Texas. He's the president. Hey, Dave, do you want to say hi?
Maybe I'm.
Wait, there you go.
Good, I'm unmuted. Yeah, thanks. I was muted. That's maybe just as well. You never know. I'm Dave Jones. I'm the president of a little nonprofit called Clean Elections Texas. We work on voting rights and campaign finance reform issues, and I'm a lawyer in Dallas. And I've been involved with this for a while now, and intend to be with it for the rest of the duration, whatever happens. Glad to be with you all this evening.
Thanks for joining us. Oh, and by the way, I was hoping The current event that I picked for this talk was the op-ed that you sent, and I was hoping that you could help lead the discussion a bit. It's the one about Virginia. You don't.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I did. I sent you that. I guess I sent you that op-ed from the New York Times, right?
Yeah, no, and I have it listed in the presentation. But if you don't
Oh,
want,
okay, yeah.
no,
that's okay. I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but I mean, I know what they did, and I can talk about it at some point. Happy to do that.
Okay, I was hoping you could just add to the discussion. I've got it up on the slide. I've got it all ready to go, so we should be good. And then the last person I wanted to introduce was Mary Cullinane.
Yeah, Mary Cullinane here. I'm with Common Ground for Texans, and if y'all don't know what that group is about, we try to promote civil conversation, discourse about different issues confronting Texas. And we try to have blues and reds at the same time, and we're much better about collecting blues, though, I have to admit. So, but that's what we're about.
Okay, so really quickly, I wanted to talk about what we're going to somewhat be covering over this series of chats, or at least what I was hoping to cover. This is all subject to change, though. If anyone in my family gets sick, then all of this goes out the window. Unless anyone else in the group wants to jump in and continue on, then you're welcome to. So at any rate, the first talk was going to be on the census, and it's on Census Day, so yay. Okay, the next one, we're going to do our basic redistricting 101. I think a lot of you guys have already seen a bunch of this information in person, so if you have, feel free to write to me or chime in the chat box and say, I've already done this, or I'm not really interested. The next one is, again, stuff that we've done at our in-person events. It's our Fair and Open campaign and how to prepare testimony for the public input hearings. The fourth talk is going to be about Representable. Representable is a tool from the Princeton Gerrymandering Project that allows you to draw your community of interest on a map. So I wanted to walk everyone through how to use Representable, how to draw communities of interest, and then discuss some communities of interest that could be of potential use in litigation and stuff like that. Then we were going to talk about our mapping campaign. Hopefully we can have it done and ready to go by then. The mapping campaign is designed to put, what am I trying to say? The tools that you need to draw your own district map. So we want to let everyday people draw their own maps. These maps we're hoping can be used in future litigation eventually. So we kind of want to walk people through the background of, you know, what you need to draw these maps, the program, the data sources, the definitions and vocabulary that you need to know in order to do this, the state legal requirements and stuff like that. And we'll also be showing you how to walk through District R, which is a software produced by Tufts, by Moon Duchan's group, who she runs the metric geometry and gerrymandering group from Tufts. So yeah. The next one, we are talking with the production crew for Slay the Dragon. It's a new documentary coming out. It should be released for live, what is it when you watch it at home? I'm not a TV person, I feel bad. What is that called? Can someone help me out?
Streaming?
Yeah, you have to buy it though, and I think it's $7. At any rate, I think what Fair Maps is trying to do is buy a bunch of prepaid viewerships or whatever. So if you're interested in doing that, we would send out the link, and like the first 100 people or so would get access to it basically. And so then you could watch the documentary on your own, at your own time over the course of the week on your couch basically. And then we'll have one of these weekly chats or a different call. And I think Anthony Gutierrez with Common Cause was also trying to find someone semi-famous to come in and kind of lead the talk or be a part of the discussion, someone like Dave Daly or Katie Fahey. That's still in the works though. So I can't guarantee a date in that. I can't even guarantee that we're gonna do it yet, but that is what we're trying to put together basically. And then after we do all of that, the last weekly chat, we were hoping to break into regional groups and start working on district maps and individual regions. I know a lot of you guys already participated in the House public input hearings, and you already attended one of those in-person trainings, so it's kind of hopefully pick up where we left off. Now that you've provided that great testimony, hopefully you included some data on your community of interest, and now we can sit down and start drawing maps and putting everyone's input together and coming up with more of a group think on what a district map should look like locally, if that makes sense. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So the agenda for today's call is going to be updates really quick. I just wanted to let everyone know that obviously both the House and Senate hearings, their public input hearings, have been canceled. I spoke with Ashley Westenhover. She's the clerk for the House committee. She's Phil King's, I don't know, I think she's her staff, or his staff, sorry. At any rate, she said that it's very difficult for them right now to figure out how far in advance they should cancel these hearings. They said, at least on the House side, that they want to let everyone know that they are just truly postponing them, and they do have every intent to reschedule them. They're not trying to exclude the public, they're just trying to keep everyone safe. And so it becomes difficult because at the same time, we've asked them to give us 30 days notice, and she understands that, and she wants to give everyone the chance and opportunity to participate, and for us to be able to promote the hearings and stuff like that, is give the public as much time as possible. But that's difficult to do right now, given the current situation, so it's just a delicate balance. But considering that the governor has now canceled school all the way up until May 5th, I guess we'll have to wait and see, because I know May 8th and 9th, I believe it is. Lydia, is that the correct date? It's supposed to be Montgomery, Fort Bend for their public input hearings on the House side at least. I know
was May 7th.
May 7th. Okay, so that's really close. I'm not sure. We'll have to play it by ear. And then we'll have to wait and see what they're going to do. I know the governor has also defined like these stopgap measures, that if they can't hold these public input hearings, are there ways for them to have them online basically and have people give their testimony online? It's not great. Not everyone has the access to online capabilities or whatever, but you know, it's something. In these times, it's at least something. It's decent. Okay, for all of these calls, what I'm hoping to do, because there's so much national news about redistricting always, I kind of wanted to go and pick one current event to talk about for each call really quickly, so we can kind of keep up to date, because it's really interesting to see what other states are doing in the world of redistricting. We can learn a lot from other campaigns as well. So we're going to spend a little bit of time today talking about Virginia. In Virginia, they passed a constitutional amendment to create a mixed bipartisan redistricting commission, and we'll talk about that in a second and define what mixed means. But that's the first time. This is the first time a state legislator has voted to take away their own power, and that's kind of why it was a historic event. And at least there's some good news from the past 2 weeks. One good thing that we can talk about. I was like, yeah, okay, that's good. Okay, and then we're going to work our way into the census after that. And like I said, please, I know everyone's on mute right now. Please feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question, or if I tell you something that's not correct. I'm not very strong on the census. It's not my forte. So if I say something that's wrong and you have different information, please share it with the rest of the group. Okay, so like I said, Virginia passed a constitutional amendment to create a mixed legislator and citizen redistricting commission. So it's bipartisan. I think there's going to be 8 legislators and 8 citizens taking part, and it's going to be bipartisan. And like I said, this is the first time in US history that a state passed an amendment and took the power of redistricting somewhat away from the legislator. That hasn't happened before. All of the states that have some sort of interesting commission. They have all adopted that commission through an administrative process, and we don't have that here in Texas. The only way that we're going to be able to get a commission created is by having the legislator pass it, basically. So there was one quote from the article, and I've referenced the article here, and I will also email the presentation recording of the call after we're done to everyone, so you have access to all of the resources provided. But there was one great quote from the article, and it said, "The Democrats' vote was a display of integrity and selflessness by members of a party with unified control of government and long-term interest in the health of representative democracy over the short-term partisan benefits that both parties have been happy to exploit when they control redistricting." So what's great about Virginia, or let me tell you more of the backstory behind Virginia. So in 2018, going into that round of elections, Republicans had control of the legislature. They had a Democratic governor, but Republicans had control of the legislature. And so Republicans saw that their power they were about to lose power. So they quickly decided to support this bill for the model commission, basically. So having done that in Virginia, in order to pass an amendment, you have to, you have to pass the amendment twice through the legislature. So from 2 sessions. Hold on just one second. Hey, Jacob? So you have to get it through a legislative session twice. And then after it passes through the legislature twice, then you have to have the public vote on it, basically. So I believe it was in 2018, 2019 that they bipartisan support for it for the first time, and they passed it through. This past time, after Democrats took control, the Democrats flaked out. And so it became a very big argument. Part of the reason was the Black Caucus felt like the commission did not do enough to protect the minority community rights. And so a big fight broke out. I want to say, not really a fight, but the Black Caucus did not support it. And in the end, only 9 Democrats supported the bill, but it was enough to get the amendment through the House. The bad news is, I think the supporting legislation that the Black Caucus was trying to get through, the supporting legislation did not pass, and the supporting legislation would have put more protections in place that would have protected the minority vote in Virginia. Nonetheless, though, they now have a mixed commission, and so at least that's semi-good news for the week. Dave is on the phone. Dave is the person that shared this news with us, or shared the article, the New York Times article with me. So I wanted to see if he had anything else to add to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you covered it pretty well. It's amazing. I mean, it's the first time it has happened, and it was really, I guess, fairly heroic of the 9 Democrats who went ahead and supported it, because it did take power away from them. They were in a position where they controlled the legislature and could probably have had control of the redistricting process in the next round. So that's a really huge thing, and it's going to need to happen in Texas if we're ever going to get a commission here in Texas. There's one thing I think you maybe didn't mention is that as I understand it, the commission does have some diversity as a component of it. I may not have been everything that everybody wanted, but it does have some components to it that are good in that sense. That the thing that is different about it, that we all have sort of favored the California model, and it is the politicians are still on the commission, which is different than the California model. The half of the commission is made up of members of the legislature, and they have an equal vote with citizens on the commission. There's 8 citizens as well, and then they make a decision, and the governor then has the final call. If they can't reach a conclusion, I think if they can't agree, it goes to the state Supreme Court, as I recall. They're in Virginia, but it's, I mean, so the politicians aren't completely out of it, but it's a huge thing. And you know, a lot of the times when what we hear at hearings is people who are against commissions say, well, these are our elected representatives. We don't want to give up our elected representatives on a commission. We want for some unelected commissioners. And so that is one advantage of a system that has some of the politicians in it, or a commission that has politicians in it, especially if it has some requirements for bipartisanship, like the Virginia plan does. So, I mean, it kind of helps against that argument that we hear at some of the hearings for people who oppose commissions. But it's a really neat thing. I mean, and actually fairly amazing. It makes me think. I mean, this shows how old I am, but I mean, there's a great book that John Kennedy wrote called Profiles in Courage, about acts of political courage that people have taken over the years, and it's just anecdotes and stories about that. It's a really great book. Actually, I think it won like a Pulitzer Prize or something. This was a profile. These were profiles in courage for these 9 Democrats, because there was uniform Democratic opposition to it, because they didn't want to give up their power, and all the Republicans supported it, and these 9 Democrats went with them, and it passed. So it's a really cool thing.
Do we have
and I think it's good your dog was barking, because we should all bark in approval. Like,
do we have the names of those 9 politicians?
I don't.
I
don't. I'm sure they're available.
Isn't this one of the states that we wrote or signed on to a letter of support for what they were doing?
This was. So the Princeton Gerrymandering Project and a lot of these big democracy reform groups like the Campaign Legal Center also, they also sent a letter, but these big groups sent letters to the Speaker of the House encouraging them to continue hearing the legislation basically and move it through the legislature in a timely fashion, because that deadline for them to pass the legislation was coming up. And so a bunch of us here from Texas signed on to that letter. So we could try to reach out to them and try to figure out more of the backstory and who exactly signed on and what finally got the legislation through. And that's what I was thinking about earlier today too.
Another possibility would be to enlist the support of those 9 legislators when we're working with our own legislators.
That's a good idea.
I think that is a great idea. I think I would really support that. I mean, it'd be really neat if we could get those people to come to Texas and start talking to people.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it
we need
make any difference, but it's worth a shot.
Find them.
Yeah, first we need to track them down. Well, I'm sure it was a record vote, so I mean, I'm sure they're identifiable. They may be persona non grata in the Democratic Party there now, but yeah, no, that's a really neat idea, I think.
So yeah, it was somewhat of some good news that happened over the past 2 weeks. Probably one of the only pieces of good news. So let's go ahead and move on, I guess, to the census part. And I'm glad everyone is here. I know there's a lot of, it's a delicate balance, I want to say. There's already a lot of talk about the citizenship question and a lot of fear in our community. A lot of people are very upset over the way the census has already, what am I trying to say? The story has unfolded, I guess. I want to kind of calm everyone down. Everyone is still very upset. I understand that. But at the same time, I also want to get across a sense of urgency into the way the census is unfolding currently. Like this is going to go down in history books as one of like the worst years ever, I think. There is only so much we can do though. And so that's always what you have to keep in the back of your mind. I know everyone really is upset about the citizenship question, and there are already a lot of people that are afraid to answer the census. Not only that, but we have a whole problem with the homeless population, get everyone counted accurately and on time basically. So I want to make sure everyone is okay and everyone understands that there's only so much we can do, especially given the current situation now as it's unfolding with the coronavirus. I want everyone to make sure that number one, you need to take care of yourself and the health of yourself, and we have to keep a good social distance. And so just please keep that in mind and try not to get too worked up over it. I get worked up over it very easily. At the same time, though, I want to point out bad news from Naleo. Naleo, if you guys don't follow them on social media, they're a very good one to follow. They will keep you updated with the census and everything census you need to know. They're an awesome organization. Naleo is a group that represents the Hispanic and Latino communities across America. And they have a very strong and very good team here in Texas on the ground working to promote the census. So they have done research though, as the census started to play out and we started getting numbers back. They have done their own, I don't know if it's how they've collected this information, what sort of data sourcing they've done. But at any rate, what they're reporting is that the Latinx communities are self-responding to the 2020 census at a quote unquote much lower rate than the country as a whole. And the research shows that the Hispanic and Latino communities are reporting self-responding at a rate that's half of what the rest of America has responded right now. So that's already bad news going into this. That's super bad news. And if that is what we see, there is no doubt that they will file suit against that. So that's one thing to keep in mind.
Stephanie, can I say something?
Yes, please.
This is Ejad Durrani. I'm with an organization called Engage that works in the Muslim Arab South Asian community.
Yes. How are
space.
you?
And today there was a press conference with Mayor Turner and Judge Lina Hidalgo. Engage's Nabila Mansour was there also. So the current numbers that we have, at least for Harris County, is that nationally 38% have filed so far. Harris County is at 32%, and you're right. There are communities within our overall makeup that are not filing as much. But a sort of a silver lining has been, since so many people are at home rather than out, many more people are taking advantage of the online filing. And so Engage, like many other organizations, and there's an organization called Houston in Action, which is really actively working in this area, are really reaching out to individuals who may not necessarily have thought of participating in the census, but as a process of informing people, we were able to get hold of their either telephone number or email address. And now we are following up with a very simple request, which is, hey, as long as you're home, take the opportunity to file and go over all the benefits that comes from being part of the census. So I just wanted to tell you that this March 25th response rate of 26% is now higher. It's a 38% total, primarily because of the fact that many people are at home rather than outside. And as we work, I know it becomes difficult, so what can I do? But as we work, our own scope of influence that we have, folks that we know either through our email or folks that we know through our cell phone, there's going to be a Hustle type software available. It might be Hustle, where you can basically send a message to people on your cell phone, only on your cell phone, to say, have you filed for the census? And again, that will trigger many people who hadn't really thought of doing anything on the census to go out and file it electronically or online.
So yeah, I'm glad that you've shared that, and I'm glad to hear that's happening in Houston. So I was going to get to the self-response methods toward the end. I'm going to quickly give everyone an update on what's going on and where the Census Bureau stands right now, and then really want to drive home a lot of these alternative methods, because a lot of people had already ramped up a plan that now has to be put to the side because of the coronavirus. And so we want to be promoting all these different methods of self-response as much as possible. So I'm going to walk you guys through a bunch of toolkits, and I'll walk you through what the questionnaire looks like, and have you guys basically up to date, so you can help answer questions if anyone has questions that you meet. Let me see if I can get the slide to go. Okay, so let's talk about the coronavirus's impact on the 2020 census. So today is Census Day. Census Day, for those who don't know, is a reference point. It's basically a way for the Census Bureau to tell everyone that this is where you need to count yourself for the census, where you rest your head on April 1st, basically. So it's our reference point. Because of the coronavirus, people have been displaced. To give you examples, college students have now gone back to their parents' house to live. People in group quarters and nursing homes and retirement communities have gone to live with their kids again. And I've also had reports of people being stuck abroad because they're afraid to travel and come back to the US. You also have, I want to mention that the farther away we get from Census Day, the less accurate this data is going to be. And that comes from the state demographer. This is something that she has relayed in other presentations that I've heard given by her. I can't tell you the math behind it, but she wants to emphasize that the farther away we get from Census Day, the less accurate this data is going to be. So that means that we really don't want to have to postpone the census to the summer or even later. The logistics of all of this, everyone, I want you guys to realize how large this whole operation is. It's the largest non-wartime operation in the entire world, basically. So we have a lot of logistics. We have time constraints and time invested right now, and we have a lot of resources that we've invested to a very specific timeline for all of these events. So we can't really change this much. And so this all is leading me to a conclusion that we hopefully will not have to postpone the census. So here are some key operational changes to fill you guys in on. Field operations have been suspended until April 15th. This means that there has been a 4-week delay. So they just announced that, so they had delayed it by 2 weeks. And then I think 2 days ago, they announced that they're going to be delaying it for another 2 weeks. So as I said, group quarter and service-based enumeration has been postponed, but they're really encouraging people that are in charge of those group quarters to respond online, basically. The update and leave has been paused. Update and leave is going to be affecting our southern regions along the border, namely I can't say it, please help me, the colonias down there. So a lot of those people were, we were anticipating on counting them by knocking on their door, having someone, boots on the ground, a census enumerator, drop off the census questionnaire and update their address. And so that has been suspended right now. And then also our homeless count. The Census Bureau has decided to delay that count, and they will be starting that at the end of April. Our non-response follow-up, again, that's boots on the ground. That's a census enumerator coming to your door and knocking. That has not yet been delayed, but we'll see how that goes. The good news is, though, the 4th mailing is still on schedule, so you'll be getting another reminder for anyone that hasn't responded yet. And they're also going to be sending out paper questionnaires. I believe they're ramping up to send out more paper questionnaires to those who have not responded yet. Again, I want to stress that delaying the census would not have good outcomes. The federal government has a constitutional requirement to deliver that data to states by December 31st. So the more that you postpone this, the more likely it is that they're not going to be able to fulfill that constitutional requirement. Further delay of field operations might result in the Census Bureau having to rely on administrative records, and we do not want that at all. That data becomes more inaccurate. And then So the census day was moved to April 1st, I think back in 1910 or 1930. I can't remember what year it was. But the reason for it was because the director of the Census Bureau at the time said that most of the people in the summertime went on summer vacation and they weren't at home, basically. And so I want you to think about all the stuff that happens in the summer, right? It's just some of the same stuff that I'm hearing for why we don't want to delay the primary to the summer, because people are on vacation. We also have, especially in Houston on the coastal areas, we have more instances of hurricanes and people being displaced. We have more heat. So people don't want to run a campaign in the summer. It's hard for people to get out and canvass. That's the same type of stuff that the Census Bureau is going to have to do. So we don't want to have to delay the census to the summer, but again, I guess we'll just have to see how it all plays out. So the border regions, where the update and leave was the main method of participation. Those folks are going to be impacted the most. College students, I want to emphasize this, and I'm hoping that you guys can come up with some social media posts, and I can also give you some examples later on. But what we need to be doing now is talking to the people that are going to be the most impacted by the coronavirus and explaining to them how the census is going to be conducted now. So the border population was one of them. College students are another one. College students, we need to let them know that they'll be counted at their place of residence while they're attending school, right? We want them to be counted at their university. That's what the Census Bureau is directing everyone to do, not at home. Those living in dormitories, they do not need to fill out the census, though, because the person that's in charge of the dormitory is the person that's going to be reporting that number to the Census Bureau. So they don't need to worry about filling out. I see Lydia has a question.
On that second point, college students will be counted at their place of residence. Is that for those who live in dormitories and
both? So
apartments or what?
So if
they're in a self-funded apartment?
If you're in a self-funded apartment, then you need to fill out the census with the address for the self-funded apartment. If you're living in a dormitory, the person that's in charge of the dormitory will be reporting to the Census Bureau how many people are in the dormitories as out on campus.
Okay.
I have a question. Do you
Yes.
have to have the code that everybody gets to be able to fill out the census? So, for example, if my daughter needs to fill it out in New Orleans because she goes to Tulane, and she's home because of the corona, but her mail is obviously all in New Orleans, so she doesn't have the code.
She doesn't need the code. No,
she can just go in and say, I rent a house on this street, and it'll find her.
Yep.
Okay.
She doesn't need the code to fill it out at all.
Okay, so I need to get her to get all her friends to do that. I don't think these college students are doing it.
Yes, so that's what the Census Bureau is kind of panicking about, and they're trying to ramp up their own, what am I trying to say, outreach campaign and media blitz to update people on all of this.
Mm-hmm.
But when in doubt, if you don't know if you should or should not fill out the census form, fill out the census form and send it in. They have very sophisticated methods for detecting, like if a college student is counted twice, one on college campuses and one at home. They apparently are able to tell where they should be counted. So when in doubt, fill out the form so you are counted.
Stephanie, our census guy sent us a really nice video focused just on college students, and because of the COVID-19, I'm guessing if a college student goes up to the U.S. Census Bureau website and Googles or searches for that video, they'd find it. It has all these questions answered.
I think I might have gotten it from the Census Bureau, so I can send it out in the email, the follow-up email for this call. Really quick, if you see a lot of if you see any disinformation going on social media or anything like that, we'd like for you guys to report it. And I've listed the information here in the PowerPoint presentation. You can report it to the Census Bureau. I don't know if that's the best source to report it to. I would probably actually vote, in my opinion, to send it to NALEO. NALEO has a hotline The hotline is for anyone, but it's bilingual, so they're offering help in both English and Spanish, but they're really trying to keep track of stuff like this. And so I've listed their 1-800 number in the slide. So if you guys see any misinformation going on, please report it to them. There's been rumors about you have to fill out your census form in order to receive your your stimulus check that's coming in the mail, and that's just not true. So anything like that that you guys see, we want to correct it, and then we also want to report it. Okay, so now's the time to promote self-response methods, right? Because we have social distancing, we can't go door to door. We have very limited means to contact people, basically. So we have to like switch gears for all of our campaigns and go digital, basically. Either that or by cell phone. Texting is another way, newsletters, emails, stuff like that. So this is the quote that the Census Bureau is really trying to promote. It's never been easier to respond on your own, whether online, over the phone, or by mail, all without having to meet a census taker. And so that's the quote that the Census Bureau would like people to promote as much as possible. See if I can see this. Okay, other ways to help promote. You can help increase visibility at places that provide essential services. So I helped the food bank prepare their grant that they got for census outreach. And so they've had to shift gears quite a bit, but I know what they are doing is that since so many people are showing up at food banks, they've put flyers in their bags of food, basically. And it's just a small reminder of how to fill out the census and where to go to do that. So promoting that self-response. I was thinking that if anyone wanted to do that and drop those flyers off, I'm sure that they would be able to put them in grocery bags at HEB. You could also try to do the same for clinics or hardware stores or liquor stores or any other place that's still open and considered essential. You can also, if you don't want to leave flyers behind, you can ask them to put a note up on their website. But this is the type of stuff that we have access to right now that we can do in real time. I think I've missed a slide though. Hold on, I did miss a slide. Okay, so here's the digital toolkits. So before you go to that extreme of printing out flyers and going to these second locations, or calling these second locations, there's stuff that you can do yourself online. And I wanted to show you the League of Women Voters Toolkit. It's the one that I put together on social media. So this is the League of Women Voters census page. You can find it by going to their homepage, and over on the left, you see all of our issues that we follow, and just click on Texas Census. Then you can go down to the toolbox and you can click on messaging, or you can click on graphics. Let me show you what the graphics look like really quick. Anyone can access this. You can download it. It's just very simple stuff for people to self-respond to the census. So we have, you can scan it with a QR code. You can go online. You can call by phone. We have all of the numbers and all of the different languages that are available listed as well. And we have a whole bunch of graphics available for you guys to use. I also wanted to show you the messaging. So I have an example letter in here. And so this is for anyone that is a leader in any organization. You can send this email out and try to get other organizations to promote the census as well. And I give very simple ideas in here for how they can help promote the census. You can create social media posts. You can find social media graphics in the toolkit. You can promote real-time response rates for your area. And I'll show you this map later on in the presentation. You can promote Census Day, and what the Census Bureau has done is expanded Census Day into Census Week. And then you can send a group text. And so the League of Women Voters this morning, we sent a text out to our list that we have. And I also included at the end of the list, like, here are the ways to self-respond. Also, please forward this to 5 friends. So that's the League of Women Voters tool guides. I also wanted to show you NALEO's resources that they have available, and I think I just closed one. So NALEO passed out, I signed up for their text, and they actually dropped a really cool, I guess this was just an email that they sent out today for Census, but they have a lot of resources, a lot of really good resources in here. So they have videos that they've made. They have, yeah, you can take the Census Challenge and tag 3 friends on social media. They have other social media graphics that you can download. This is the one, this third one right here is one that I really wanted to show everyone though, because they break down question and answers to the questions on the census. So they walk you through each question, and importantly, they've broken down race and ethnicity, which is a little confusing. It's actually really confusing. But this is a really good source. If anyone has questions, it might just be really good to share that on social media so other people know that this resource is there, basically. The last resource I wanted to show you was the Census Bureau's website, possibly. Maybe not. Let me see if I can go back to my presentation. So the last one I was going to show you was the Census Bureau's website. They also have standard social media graphics that you can download and use as well. I also have an example script up here for people to use. And so if you do decide to post something on social media, there are some key points that I wanted to point out that you should consider using in your post. So first of all, it's always a very good idea when you're writing an advocacy post to use the word please. It actually increases the response rate of people that participate. So I've put that in bold. So, you know, here's an example. Please support #2020 census. You can self-respond online by phone or by mail. But then importantly, I've given people links to click on. And so you really want to have those links embedded so it's very easy. It actually increases the response rate. Also, you want to give them options. So if you don't want to do it online, you can respond by mail. And then here's also a link for language assistance. And the last thing I wanted to talk about tonight on this call that's gone on for way too long, I'm sorry, was the CUNY map. CUNY stands for the City University of New York. So these poor people are sitting in New York City managing all of this data coming in during the middle of this outbreak, and they've done an outstanding job. So I wanted to show everyone this map, and I wanted to make sure that you guys knew about it so you could play around with it, basically. So the first thing I wanted to show you really quick was Texas. So I'm going to click on Texas, and we can see what the self-response rate is right now. So currently our self-response rate is at 33%. I think nationally we heard earlier that it's at 38%, but the good news is we've gone from that darker orange color to a light orange color in the past day. So that's good news. We're not too far behind. Yay, Texas. I wanted to show you some of the really neat features that are available to kind of help you plan out what sort of method of outreach you want to rely on, basically.
That's amazing.
So here, let's go to Houston. So up here over on the top left-hand side, you can click state, counties, cities, localities, census tracts, or your congressional or state legislative districts. So I'm going to go into census tracts because it's actually very, very handy. And you can zoom in and it'll show you all the census tracts in Houston. It's really neat. So you can click on one census tract and see what the response rate is. So this census tract that I've clicked on has a low response rate. What's also very handy is that it will show you other really neat things about that census tract. So I don't know if you guys know this, but for some reason, young kids tend to be undercounted on the census. I don't know if it's because parents think I'm the one in charge, they only need to count me. Don't know exactly what the reasoning is behind it. But we can map this out. And so if you do go to the extent of making flyers for a certain area or doing social media posts, you live in the census tract, you might want to think about promoting the count of young children, basically. And so you should be able to toggle in and you should be able to see, here we go. If I turn this on, it'll show you now what the risk is of an undercount in this census tract. And you can see that's actually fairly high. Some other cool stuff that this map does is it shows you access to internet. So not all areas will have access to the internet as much as you think it would. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see you should be able to slide this over and it'll show you which areas might not have access to the internet. And it looks like, oh no, here we go. Can you guys see that at the bottom? Sorry. It might not be able to, I might not be able to fit it on the screen to show you. So it says tracts where 22% or more of the households have no internet subscription. So that's fairly high. So if you know that that area does not have access to the internet, you might want to be trying to figure out a way to get the census information in their hands, maybe like at a grocery store if you want to leave flyers, at clinics, or thinking of some other way to get paper in their hands to let them know, or texting them. So those are some of the features I wanted to let you guys know about. And I think that's about it for the talk. And so I want to open it up to anyone else that has questions or comments.
Yeah. Hi, I don't know if you can hear me. Am I unmuted? I should be unmuted. Hello?
Yeah, no, we can hear you.
Yeah, just wondering, is this PowerPoint going to be perhaps available after our meeting?
Yeah, I will go ahead and email it out to the list so everyone has access to all of the resources that I just talked about.
Thank you so much, because I'm involved with Denton, the City of Denton's Complete Count Committee, and I'm sure they'll want to see this information. We're all sort of unable to meet at the moment because the city hasn't figured out how to Zoom.
Oh my God. So that's
I know. It's unbelievable.
It's scary though, because we've had at the league a few people that work for the Census Bureau reach out to us for help, and I'm like, oh no, that's not a good sign.
Really not. I know. And they're just canceling meetings instead of Zooming them.
Oh God. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions?
May I make a suggestion?
Yes, please.
I always try to recognize politicians or legislators when they've done something I think is admirable. And so when we were talking about the Virginia legislators, the Democrats that voted for the amendment, even just to send them a personal thank you, they probably don't get a lot of those.
That might be like a good way to open the door to like communication with them further. Like, we're so proud of you. Well, don't not say proud, but you know what I mean. Like, thank you so much.
For the big things, there's often petitions that invite that, but these lesser, kind of less on the radar things, we might have to do it ourselves.
We can actually even make it like a Fair Maps campaign issue, or like leading action, and say everyone send the legislators a thank you note.
As soon as Dave gets us that list.
Dave, are you still on the call or did you drop off?
No, I'm here. And I'll see if I can find those legislators. It might be, those are all really good ideas. We may want to send some sort of like formal Fair Maps letter to them acknowledging what they did, even just to thank them, and that we understand that this is a difficult thing to do, and it's a problem we face in Texas. Just sort of an introductory letter that way as well. Maybe that's something I should think about. I don't know what you guys think about that. I like the personal notes idea too. I think that's really nice also.
I think both would be good.
because I mean, I think, I guess it's Lydia who mentioned it first, but we're going to really want to solicit those guys eventually. I think, and see if we can find some of them to be kind of ambassadors to Texas.
I bet there'll be a lot of people around the country that want them to be ambassadors to their states.
Yeah, I bet that's true. Yeah.
One more thing I wanted to mention really quick. My State House rep was on. She was so nice, and she called in. I saw her on here. I didn't want to point her out while she was on the call because I didn't want to put pressure on her for supporting the legislation. She's really nice though, and so she wrote to me because I had wrote to her to see if she could help promote the census. She has a weekly newsletter, and I was like, "Would you mind putting in a reminder?" And she wrote back in a frantic like, "I'm so nervous because how are we going to reach all of the hard to count populations?" And she was really panicking about the census. But that's another source and another network that if you guys have time, you could always write an email to your State House rep and ask that they, you know, share it on social media or put it in their email or anything like that.
Do you mind saying exactly what it is you want them to put on their social media, the state reps?
It was what I had on one of the slides. And so I'm sure if you asked them, they would promote the Census Bureau stuff, which is completely fine. But on one of my slides, I gave like an example, that example post of what you want to include. You want to include the exact links and the phone number for people to self-respond. And that's what you want to be promoting as much as possible.
Yep.
I would suggest that we have people that are running for state offices and local offices do the same thing.
Yeah. And so this is the type of stuff, because I think we're all organizers, or we work outside of the nonpartisan world and political campaigns and stuff like that. And I think that's maybe where most of our connections are. If we work with precinct chairs or anything like that, not saying that I do, but if anyone else does, that might be a way, another network that you can access. They might have all of these contact lists generated that you can then, you know, send a mass text out to and say, hey, remember to fill out your census form, please.
Stephanie, did you say this CUNY map is publicly available?
It is. And so it's in the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
Let me see if I can show you guys. It's actually this link right here. I hopefully I'm still sharing the screen with you guys. It says Census Hard to Count Maps 2020.us.
Okay. I think I might send that to my legislators and give a note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also put the link on the chat box if you want to get it from there.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any other ideas? Was the gentleman from Houston still on? I think he was from Engage. No, he dropped off. I was kind of anxious to see. I know he gave us a quick update about Harris County. They have a really good group down there called Houston in Action that has been working really hard specifically on the census. So I wanted to see what else they were trying to roll out now that the campaign now that we're forced to go to digital.
I got an email from them today. They have something going on all day today on Facebook. They're doing a lot of live events from all the different organizations in Houston in Action. And then they have some more activities every day for the next few days to call attention to the census. So they're pretty active.
I'm sorry, who does?
Houston in Action. Maybe Daryl has some information on that.
Sorry, you cut out. What was it?
Houston in Action. Did you get it at that point?
Yes, thank you.
Stephanie, this is the other Stephanie.
Hi.
I've asked our county chair, although this is going to be a little bit more partisan when I say this, okay? Our county chair to have all of our precinct chairs send out a text to everybody in their precinct to fill out the the census forms. So that's going out. We all have done this over and over again. So we have sent out in previous times, I don't know how many thousands of texts out. So that covers all of Fort Bend County. So that will be a real big help once they get started on that, probably tomorrow. And maybe even Waller County too.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other ideas? Again, all of the toolkits that I mentioned, just going onto their toolkit and sharing a social media graphic or going to one of these groups' Facebook pages. I'm sure that they will have these posts ready to go and all you have to do is share. We just want to basically get the word out as much as possible in a way that's as easy as possible for a lot of us right now. Another idea I wanted to throw out there really quick, and then I will wrap up the call, is this was passed down. There's a large statewide campaign called Texas Competes. It's not Texas Competes, Texas Counts, that is running the census. Basically, we didn't have a statewide campaign set up by the state, so this hopefully they were trying to take the place and fill that need. It was being run by United Ways, the Center for Public Policy Priorities, CPPP, and a few other groups. And so some of the ideas that they had at the local level was, take a sign, make a homemade sign, and take it to the grocery store and stick it out in front of the grocery store and remind people to fill out that census form. I mean, that's how basic some of this stuff is, but every little bit is going to help, get that word out as much as possible. So. And especially if you have kids at home, maybe they could help make the sign, because I have kids at home right now looking for stuff to do besides homeschool. So yeah. Does anyone else have any other ideas? Is anyone else here on a CCC that you guys have talked about other ideas?
The census actually has a competition to make videos. It has to be between 30 seconds and 3 minutes, and they're offering.
Can you repeat again? You broke up a lot.
The census is actually having a competition to create videos. It has to be between 30 seconds and 3 minutes. They're offering prize money.
Oh, the Census Bureau is. And that would be, another great way. And even like doing like a live stream chat of yourself filling out the census or promoting the census in any way possible. That would be another great way to help get the word out, if anyone's brave enough to do a live chat. Okay, I don't want to take up too much of y'all's time. You guys are welcome to stay on, because I know a lot of people are probably, you guys are welcome to leave. Don't feel obligated to stay. But if you want to stay and chat, you're welcome to do so as well. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you all.
Thanks, Steph. You're great, man.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for
Thank you.
Never.
Hey, Brian. I'm going to unmute you. Is that okay?
Yeah. Hi, Stephanie.
How are you?
I'm good.
So I think I saw you chime in on the chat that you would not do like the redistricting 101 and the background information, basically.
Yeah, I went to the training at Temple Emmanuel in Dallas last fall. I enjoyed that.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for coming out to that. I appreciate that. I think then we might drop off or have a different like webinar that's just on the website and make that available for people. So we don't, because I think a lot of people that were on tonight's call have already attended those public training sessions or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So I think I'll talk to the group and I'll see if we can just kind of bypass that and go to some of the more non-repetitive stuff, like the mapping campaign. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, keep up the good work, and I've already been playing with that CUNY website, and I drilled down. I live in Carrollton in Dallas County, and Carrollton has a 41% response rate.
Oh, that's good.
So, I don't know. I filled it out, but I haven't seen too much. Well, I haven't really, seen people that I know in person. Haven't talked about that.
I've seen funny videos on social media about people yelling to their neighbor. I'm always almost tempted to go out and start yelling, "Hey, did you fill out your census form?"
Well, I'm working from home as a long-term substitute teacher at a high school in Richardson for a teacher that's out on maternity leave. I started at the end of January and supposed to go through the beginning of May. And so they had 2 weeks for the students had 2 weeks spring break extended. And then we started online learning on Monday.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm sitting here looking out my window, and yesterday I was like in a Zoom meeting with other teachers, and the police were here, and I don't know what was going on, but I'm looking out the window and I could see the police were here and people were out of their apartments walking around doing something.
That's crazy.
Oh, yeah, who knows what was going on.
It's sad. I've heard that first responders are taking a heavy toll. Like they're becoming, because they're the people that are responding to people that need help to get to the hospital. And so they're getting infected themselves. That's very upsetting. These are such strange times. Like it's so scary and crazy.
Yeah, it's tough for everybody. Well, I'm glad I came to the meeting, and good night.
Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it.